Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have KageKao. So, I know what you're all thinking. It's May when this gets posted. So why aren't we doing an anime? Well, scheduling is hard. So I decided for this year that we'll probably just be covering some Japanese creepypastas during the time of May. So
That works.
Yeah. So we're going to start off with KageKao. And so this one, so KageKao is by KageKao on creepypasta.wiki.
It's subtitled.
It was originally created by Jinbeizamezama. Okay, hang on. This is a very long name, and it's a different language for my own, so I apologize. Jinbeizamezama on DeviantArt, who was formerly GingaAkam, also on DeviantArt. So, I will have those names and such in the description below. But yeah, so it's so that's the story we're doing, and I'll dive into the rundown. Mark is walking around his apartment rooftop, soaking in the night air and view. It's up there. He finds a newspaper from earlier that day, and it reveals a person was killed near some woods by animal clawings, and there's a symbol, or there's some symbols carved in their forehead. However, before we get to see what those symbols were, Mark throws the paper away because he doesn't want to have that news ruin his mood. So he just continues circling around the ledge of the roof. It's then that he accidentally pushes an empty box off the ledge and sees that it hits a person down 5 stories below on the sidewalk. Trying to call down to the person to give them a heads up, he fails, and the person turns out to be a monster, shrouded in a black hoodie, with a black and white scarf and gloves, and wearing a supernatural comedy tragedy like mask that shifts its expression on either side. Like whenever it's like it's angry face on the white side of the mask, but then like that'll close up, like the eye and the mouth will close up on that side, and then there'll be a happy face on the black side of the mask, depending on the entity's mood. This monster then begins climbing up the apartment complex to confront Mark, who is initially stunned by the situation, but quickly nopes away to the hopeful safety of the roof access when the monster, perched up on the roof ledge, asks him in Japanese, "Do you want to play?" And here's a note: the monster's speaking Japanese, and we get a translation in the story. However, it states that Mark doesn't understand what the entity is talking about. So like he doesn't speak Japanese. So he just hears a weird, like this thing saying something in a weird language, and kind of gets gets a couple of like the intent of it, I guess. Regardless, after some back and forth on the roof, after some back and forth at the rooftop access, Mark gets smacked on the head by the door when KageKao when the monster surprise slams the door on him, and we cut away to the next morning, and Mark's in his apartment. He tries chalking that up to a bad dream. However, it's here that KageKao. It's here that why did I keep adding KageKao? Because he's never called KageKao in the story. It's here that the monster begins pranking Mark, like cutting a slit in his orange juice carton so that like the orange juice will come out prematurely, or switching out the beer with water, or stealing his good bottles of wine and champagne, etc. As Mark attempts to figure out how, and while this is all going on, like while these pranks are going on, Mark is attempting to figure out how to make it up to his girlfriend Beatrice, since the two recently got into a fight, and that's what Mark is attributing these pranks to, not the monster, because at this point he's still in denial that it actually happened. Eventually, Mark heads over to Beatrice's while the monster skulks nearby, and it's here that Mark goes to a bar after not having the courage to confront his girlfriend at her house, and the monster decides to pay Beatrice a visit by sneaking into her window. By the time Mark returns to Beatrice's house, he finds her dead, poisoned by a bottle of wine that the monster set up as a peace offering from Mark, including like a little like sorry note and such. The monster laughs at the predicament from the window, and Mark attempts to attack him, but the monster slips away. Mark gets Beatrice's gun to seek revenge, knowing that the monster has likely returned to Mark's apartment. There, he attempts to shoot the monster, but fails and gets knocked out. When he comes to, the monster is on the ceiling directly above him, and says that he's boring, before switching his demeanor from playful on the mask to angry, and just dives in for the kill. Authorities would find Mark's body later, dead, or killed by some kind of animalistic clawing, and there are footprints that lead to the apartment's window. Mark does have a similar, does have something carved on his head, however, the kanji for boring. And that is the end of the story. So I suppose we shall move on to Everyone Tolerates the Grammar Inquisitions! At this point, I got a couple. So I'm going to start with this one here. Mark walked along the border of the roof that helped keep him from falling to his death. So I feel like it should say Mark walked alongside the border of the roof. Just because I kept getting confused as to like, it wasn't until like a little bit later that I realized that like, yeah, there is some kind of like safety railing or something there. But I kept thinking that like in this moment, I kept reading it as like he's walking on the safety ledge.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Okay, I'm glad it wasn't just me. So yeah, maybe just describe it a little bit more like early on, like that it's a waist high wall or like a guardrail or something like that along the wall, like not just the like it does say like the border of the roof that helped keep him from falling to his death, but it's like, I mean, that's
We found that after he was walking along it. So the first thing I had in my mind, him like tightrope walking along the ledge.
Yeah, and I thought this story was going to devolve into like KageKao, or the monster, sorry, pushing him off the ledge at some point, but that never happened. And then my next one here, it was pretty late, so he should be going back down to his apartment soon. So I added, I think it should have been, it was pretty late, so he should have. What the hell did I write here? Hang on. Oh, yeah, okay, so I think it should have been, it was pretty late, so he should have been going down, or going back down to his apartment soon. Instead of just like should be going down.
Yeah.
Just because like it was bugging me. Like again, the way it was worded was like it felt clunky to me. Next one here. The scars seem to be from a large animal, but that was later found not to have. That was found not. But that was later found not to be the case, as a symbol was found carved on the man's forehead. Wouldn't it be wounds, not scars? Like, the wounds seem to be from a large animal.
Oh yeah, because scars imply that they've healed over.
Yeah, yeah. I think scars are, like you said, like they heal over. Like those are like the healed wounds, not not the fresh wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if this person was like found with like just like ripped apart and stuff. The next one here, it was nothing but the lights of the city and the sound of a few cars driving by. I kind of think that it should be there was nothing but the lights of the city and the sounds of a few cars driving by, not sound of a few cars driving by.
Yeah.
So I would also remove the it at the beginning of the sentence. That one's for you, Mikey. Next one here. There is was again. I
Really?
think it needs to be there. And actually, so it's there is was again, period. It came from inside the apartment. It's coming from inside the house. No, I changed. I think I corrected the like how that first sentence should be, but I also combined that sentence with the next sentence to kind of make it a much more complete sentence line. So there it was again, comma, the laugh came from inside the apartment. Because first off, again, it removes the it at the top, at the front of a sentence.
And you're combining tiny sentences. You're pleasing both of us.
I know.
You buttering us up for something here?
No, not at all. This was all unintentional.
Uh-huh.
So the next one here, this is a bit of a long one. He was worried how he was going to make up to his girlfriend, Beatrice. He loved her and wanted to make her understand how much he loved her. He turned on the television and watched for a couple of hours, forgetting his troubles. So, a few things here. And I think I tried to fix it by like rewriting the sentence a little bit. So, he was worried how he was going to make it up to his girlfriend, Beatrice. He loved her and wanted to make her understand how much he loved her, especially after their recent fight. However, as he turned on the television and watched it for a couple of hours, Mark began forgetting his troubles. So just like a few little additions to kind of like flesh out that series of sentences a little bit more to make them a little bit more complete, and so it's not so disjointed.
I have something that's sort of grammar in regards to this sentence, because I'm just going to read the same thing again.
Okay.
I feel like there should be something else in there in between him wanting to make it up to his girlfriend and him watching TV, because like he immediately is like, I need to make this up to her. I'm going to sit down and forget about trying to make this up to her right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is something that people do. Yeah.
He's going to sit down and forget about his troubles.
Yeah.
For the sentence right after he's saying how much he loves her and how he wants to make it up to her.
Yeah. Like he just, yeah, like I get
it.
Like
just the way the character's thinking, and he's just not that good of a boyfriend, hence why she's already mad with him in the first place.
Yeah, fair. Like maybe it's like the TV was on and it called to Mark, so he sat down to watch it. Like maybe there's suddenly something good came on the television while it was on in the background, and he started watching it for a couple of hours and forgot his troubles.
I suppose.
Yeah. The next one here. There was no trace. The evidence was missing, or there was no trace. The evidence was the missing bottle of wine and wine glass. So I did try to fix this with one word. There was no trace. The only evidence was the missing bottle of wine and wine glass.
Yep.
Because that way it's like there was no trace except for this. So, can I move on, or do you guys have anything to talk about with that? Okay. Next one here then. He dialed her number and waited for her to pick up. Mark was so excited about making up to her that he did not notice someone slip in through the window and watch him. So, part of this comes up occasionally with him wanting to make up with his girlfriend and stuff like that, or make it up to her and stuff like that. So for this one, it's Mark was so excited about making up to her, and I think it should have been was so excited about making up with her. And I'll move on to the next one here. Only then did he see something in the corner of his eye. But when he turned about, it was gone. So I sort of corrected it by accident there. But my correction would be, but when he turned around, it was gone, rather than, but when he turned about, it was gone. I also don't know if there should be maybe a comma between around and it, just because the way the way it reads, initially, it could be, but when he turned about, it was gone. There's no it doesn't seem like there's a break between it was gone and but when he turned about, or when he turned around.
It's probably when he turned about, comma, it was gone, because otherwise he's talking about turning about it specifically. He's not
exactly
turning about it or around it. He's turning around himself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So either I just add a comma, because the about is the about is okay. It's just without that comma, it sort of sounds like he turned about it.
Yeah.
So, and then the next thing here, he turned around and walked away, not noticing that laugh that happened right behind him, followed by the sound of an opening window. And then we get the Japanese for laughter, KKKKK. Laughter. And then part 2. Mark left the bar he was at. Wait, this story, prior to this does not identify as part 1.
No.
There is no. I looked it up. There's no, I had to actually go back to the page, go up to the top, and it's no, there's no part 1. Why is there suddenly a part 2? Especially since the story does a good job of separating scenes and moments in time in the story by using 2 asterisks, to sort of separate different scenes apart. So
it only does that. It only has the asterisks twice.
Yeah, but that's still enough, right? Sorry.
No, I have a note on that.
I thought it did. Okay. Go into it now.
It's unrelated to what you're talking about, so I'll talk about that when I get there.
Are you sure? Because okay,
I don't want to interrupt your flow.
Okay. But yeah, I personally thought the asterisks were fine the way they were, and the part 2 part was using part 2 suddenly, that separation made no sense to me, when it could have just been 2 asterisks here.
It's entirely possible it's because everything for part 1 was posted first, and then months later part 2 was slapped on.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. And unfortunately, we don't know. So, but I'll move on to the next thing. Mark reached out his fist and knocked on the door loudly. So this is right after Mark left the bar he was at. So I changed the sentence up a little bit. So it's March. Mark reached the house yet again, his fist stretched out, and knocked on the door loudly. Just to kind of again, to add a little bit of segueing, a little bit more context to the scene.
I'll say this: his arm is stretched out, his fist is not stretched out, because his fist is a ball, and his hand is not being stretched out. His arm.
You're right. So it should be actually his arm stretched out and he knocked on the door.
Yeah.
So okay.
Knocking loudly on the door with his fist, if you have to have fist in there.
Yeah. just like fists the door.
No, don't.
Moving on. It sprung up and jumped to the wall, leaving the wine glass and clinging to it with its claws, so that its back was facing Mark. So this one's harder to pronounce, but basically the very end there, facing Mark. Mark is a name of the main character in this story, so it should be capitalized, which it is not in the story. Yeah, it's as far as I know, it's the only time Mark's name is improperly capitalized. So, and then the final one here that I have, the kill seemed animal, and claw marks were found along the walls and ceiling. So I think it should maybe be the kill seemed animalistic, just to kind of like, because like the kill seemed animal.
Yeah, it was Animal from the Muppets.
I was trying to think of like a quote from Animals, like like from the Muppets. I was like, boring.
Yeah, I know what he sounds like.
Yeah. But that is actually my Grammar Inquisition. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil. Take it away.
Well, you did a good job, so all that I have left is a conjunction junction.
Okay. And next stop, conjunction junction. Doot, doot.
It was pretty late, so he should be going back down to his apartment soon. It was odd. He didn't see any cars, only one lonely person walking along the sidewalk. It was only a few seconds, but to Mark it felt like an eternity. It seemed happy and playful, but also angry and malicious. It was nothing but the lights of the city and the sound of a few cars driving by. It came from inside the apartment. It was now noon. It came from the living room where he left the television on. It was sitting on the couch drinking a glass of wine, watching the television that had been left on. It picked up the open bottle of wine in one hand and shook it a little towards him. But the monster remained in there. He could hear it laughing at him. It was the bottle that he had had in his cabinet. It was open. It was sitting in the windowsill, imitating her voice. It laughed hard, putting its hands up to its face to try and stop. It was lying on top of a bookshelf, holding a glass of wine, the wine bottle in the other hand. It sprung up and jumped to the wall, leaving the wine glass and clinging to it with its claws so that its back was facing Mark. It was clinging to the ceiling, its arms and legs bending back at a 90-degree angle so it was facing him. Its mask changed again. It made a low, growling, hissing sound and pounced. Then,
So early on, it sounded like the demon or the monster was just like this invisible force that he was just like, that was just like interacting with him, and he like couldn't like he was like he was hearing and seeing like the city skyline, or like the city like the city life and stuff like that. And then suddenly like it cuts to like he's in his room, or he's in his apartment. Mm-hmm. And it's like it slowly started materializing as an entity the more you read.
And then like he was describing it holding the wine bottle out, and then the wine bottle was getting a whole bunch of descriptions, and then it immediately said it was imitating the voice of his girlfriend, like the wine bottle was. And then it held a glass of wine, so like it sprouted arms and held out a wine glass of its own, like the wine bottle itself.
It's like one of those like rubber hose cartoons that like, let's all go to the lobby. Let's all
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
yeah. Hey, have a glass of me, friend. Just starts like pouring his own wine.
Yeah, his own self, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mikey does these strings of sentences to highlight all the sentences in a story that start with words that they probably shouldn't, like it's, ands, or buts, because there's always better words. It's way too easy to fall in the trap of starting everything with an it.
Yes. Or and, or but, and then.
No and down.
And then.
No and down.
And then.
No and down.
Yes.
Yeah, that's in my grammar inquisition.
Yep. So, gamer.
Okay. Let's see what I have here. A couple of mine. So when I read this first one, I misunderstood what he's trying to say. What the story was trying to say, rather. The scars seemed to be from a large animal, but that was later found not to be the cause, as a symbol was found carved on a man's forehead. The symbol was and there's a dash. So when I read that, I took that as at face value, shocking no one. I read it as the symbol that was carved on his forehead was a dash, because that's what's said. It says the symbol was it, and then there's a symbol of a dash. So I thought, like, in the paper that I was reading, they put a dash to show, like, it's just a line on his head. And then I made a note about jumping to conclusions, saying that that's way too simple of a shape to know right away that it's a symbol, and saying, like, oh, is a slit neck also a dash? Is a gunshot wound the letter O? But then, with that note down, I started reading the next paragraph, and it says Mark put down the newspaper where he found it. He didn't want an article like that ruining his night. So at that point, I'm like, okay, so maybe the dash is just him stopping the read and not trying to describe the shape of the symbol then. So in my opinion, that's kind of a poor choice, considering in the context that I read it, it worked. So long story short, I think that should just be an ellipses, because then there's no confusion.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I actually, at a glance, I do recall like thinking initially that was like the symbol, and then realizing like a second later when I was reading the rest of it, it's like, oh, okay, that's a dash.
Yep.
Like he's cut off. Like he's cut off his train of thought, or whatever he's reading. So,
yep.
But yeah, I think I think you're onto something with the ellipses.
Indeed. But I'll move on. So the monster says words, and then he says words a second time. The second time he says words, it's formatted weird, because there's Japanese words, exclamation point, Japanese words, exclamation point, bracket, you want to play, question mark, and then it tabs down with Kiki the laughter, I want you to play. Meanwhile, like, it's the same line. I don't know why that's tabbed down. It should just continue.
Yeah.
It's when I first read that, the first thing he said was, do you want to play? And it was a short amount of Japanese words. I don't know what it doesn't matter. Short amount of Japanese letters. And then all of a sudden, the next time he talks, there's all this Japanese being said, and it's translated to the same thing of, do you want to play? Because like, if you don't read the second part, if you just read the Japanese letters and then the bracket directly after it, it looks like this huge string of letters also says, do you want to play, for some reason. So I was confused. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's continuing down there, but I don't know why it's continuing down there.
Yeah, I think because I'm looking at the space next to that. Like it's the monster said again, Japanese, KKK, Japanese, and then the translation in brackets, and then it, like you said, it breaks it up. Like after "Do you want to play," it goes to the next line, KKK, laughter. I want to play. I want you to play. And I'm looking at the space next to it, and it was like it almost looks like there's supposed to be an image box there. To me, like that in that negative space.
It could be.
So I was actually I was clicking around on that page, like, is there like an invisible box that I'm just not seeing?
Yeah,
because I think what happened here is maybe there's just an incident of like an accidental enter button.
I suppose, yeah. like if you put all that in there, it would snap down just like a couple of the letters. So he snapped down half of it instead of just a couple of letters. But in that case, I would snap the entire bracketed section down to keep it all together.
Yeah.
If the formatting is an issue.
No, that's fair.
Then we get to the double ellipses.
Okay.
The noise came from right outside the door, a little above it. The monster must have been standing on top of it. Double ellipses. Mark woke up confused. So I don't understand. Also, they're not ellipses; they're asterisks.
Yeah, I was about to. Yeah, sorry.
I don't understand the double asterisks. Like, is it being used like a scene break? I would ask that, but there's multiple times the scene changes, but it's only used twice in the whole story. And both of them are time skips. The first one, him being KO'd, and the second one, him sitting around watching TV. But, like, when did he pass out? Also? Because he's saying, like, he's hit. He's like, oh, what the fuck was that? And then he realizes that the monster was standing on top, like, above the door. And then immediately he just wakes up. But there's no mention of him passing out in the first place.
Yeah, it's almost... I wonder if maybe he was supposed to get knocked out by the door slamming on his face, and so like as he's passing out, that's what's happening, and then he passes out. But then Mark woke up confused. So like,
I'm reading confused. I feel like there should be a line about him being like, he gets hit, and he's like, oh, what the hell was that? And then like groggily, as he's losing consciousness, he realizes that the creature was above the door.
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be some mention of him losing consciousness before he can regain consciousness.
Yeah, clearly to me, the two asterisks are being used as like a horizontal line to break up passages of time.
Okay, but why is it only done twice in the entire story, and why just in this one tiny section?
I think, well, again, because it's like a pretty large amount of time, like hours have gone by, whereas in like the rest of the story, it's only it's a lot shorter amount of time is passing between scenes. And we do see it. Technically, it would be 3 times it would be used, except part 2 is used.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not down there.
Yeah, so I think the part 2 should have been a double asterisk as well.
And there's no. It's not when he leaves the apartment to go to his girlfriend's place. There's no double asterisk there.
That's because it was that was shortly after, like, it was noon now, or it was now noon. He got up and walked into the kitchen, turned off the TV, like leaving the television on and stuff like that. I think that's like because like that scene is following up on that on the previous separation.
Okay, but what I'm saying is these 2 separations are time skips, but there's other time skips in the story that do not also use it. So either use it for all of your time skips or don't use them at all, because they just kind of confused me. Like, it made me think like this section is being highlighted for some reason. And I'm like reading it, trying to find out why this section is highlighted like that, but there's nothing in there to say why. Because the whole part that's highlighted is him waking up after being knocked out, and then the wine stuff, I guess, like, it's not there. And he sees it in the apartment. Oh, he doesn't. Or does he? Oh, he hears it, but he doesn't see it again. Like, is this the orange juice part? Either way, nothing really important happens in this scene. It's just him waking up and then fuddling around with the orange juice and a couple of pranks, and that's about it. So I don't know why it's highlighted.
All right, fair.
Long story short, if you're going to use them for all your time skips, use them for all your time skips, not just 2 of them. And then I'll get to part 2 of my notes, because I sectioned them out by part 1 and part 2.
How dare you?
Because everyone did that, right?
Nope.
I figured.
Yeah.
Not that it matters. Either way, it sprung up and jumped to the wall, leaving the wine glass, and clings to it with its claws so that its back was facing Mark. I know we've all read this sentence now, but I'm reading it for a different reason.
Yes.
I didn't realize you guys read this sentence, or rather that I had a note on this, because I was also making notes while you guys were doing your notes. Regardless, I was confused to how he was clinging to the glass while also dropping it at the same time. Because it says he sprung up and jumped to the wall, leaving the wine glass and clinging to it with his claws.
Oh,
So the
yeah,
wording of it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
So the way that I corrected it is he sprung up and dropped the wine glass, jumping to the wall and clinging to it with its claws.
Boom. Done.
Because the clinging is to the wall, not to the glass. You can't drop it
No.
and not drop it at the same time.
I mean, you can. It's just it'd be impressive, but
yeah, that'd be like
also
like you accidentally drop it. You're like, whoa, and you pick it back up like before it hits the ground. That's what that was. So maybe he did that while flipping to the wall. I don't know. Probably not.
Mm-hmm. I think your correction is valid on this.
I will move on. Mark was enraged and swung the gun towards it for a melee attack. The monster crawled to the side. But the monster rolled a 20 on its defense, so it crawled to the side. That's what it's supposed to say. Because like the wording of this is way too bland and video gamey, which is normally a good thing for me. But it takes me out of the whole scene, honestly. It's saying like he swung a melee attack. Like it's so bland and weird. Just something simple as like he swung the gun towards it. You just remove the melee attack part. Like
I did definitely read. I remember reading this. It was like thinking of like suddenly a D&D scenario.
Yeah.
He swung the gun towards it with a melee attack. However, the monster had improved initiative.
Yeah.
Struck first.
But yeah, it's just way too. Yeah, like I imagined it to say like for 20 damage after swinging it from a melee attack. Like way too gamey. Then my last one is with the ending. On further inspection of the body, they found something carved in the skin of the forehead. Japanese letters, boring. Not that Japanese letters are boring. The Japanese letters were saying boring.
Yes.
Okay, either way. I kind of feel like that might have been one of the first things they noticed, not the last thing they noticed. Because when you're looking at like a dead body, or when you're looking at anyone, dead or not, you kind of default to their face. You'd notice that. I get it. That's for the reveal. But you could structure it in a way where it's like he was found dead, face down in a pool of his own blood. Animal like slashes all over his body. When turned over, a symbol was carved into his bloody forehead, and then the symbol.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to end on it, to punctuate it, that's cool. But you kind of have to do it naturally when it's something that would be so obviously noticeable.
It is a very common trope in horror for like having one big reveal of this obvious thing that you should have started with. However, the author is saving it for the last zinger.
And that's fine, but you can structure the scene around it instead of just doing it as it is, just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
But that is the end of my notes. Or my German yellow, rather. Yes.
All right. So I will move on to actual thoughts. Going to start with the title. KageKao, which out of story, I know is the monster's name because he's on creepypasta or he's on villain.wiki, and when I pulled up how to pronounce .com to make sure I was saying the name right, KageKao, there's a bunch of like meanings for KageKao, and here are the ones. Here are the top 3 meanings. Top 4, I guess, meanings. A 21-year-old Japanese male that is known to have a taste for wine. Number 2 is
pretty accurate to what he does.
Honestly, before I even continued reading, I was like, "Huh, that's really accurate to the creepypasta." And then we get it is a unisex name that is of Japanese origin. It is a Japanese demon and a creepypasta.
Oh, really?
So it straight up just says it in the meaning. And then KageKao is Japanese for shadow face.
That also works.
Yeah. But my issue here with the story is that we never get his name in the story. It's only due to the title and some outside looking up that I know that the monster's name is KageKao. Otherwise, it's just referred to as the monster. So I just kind of wish that the story would have had a name drop at some point in the story.
I'm going to have to fight you on that.
Okay, that's fair.
Because there's no way he would know.
the monster could have introduced himself like KageKao wants you to play.
He speaks Japanese only.
He would, yes, but then, and actually, I got something about the subtitles and stuff that we get in the story. So the monster speaks in Japanese, and then we as a reader get the translation. However, we get this quote here. He had no idea what it said to him, but there was something odd about the way it said it. It seemed happy and playful, but also angry and malicious. So, sort of again, this is sort of like a metatextual thing in the story. With like we as a reader get to understand what the character is saying, but the other character has no idea because they don't speak Japanese. So I actually think it might be interesting, or I don't know if this would be, maybe it'd be too silly, but it might also be really cool and even like surreal creepy if that, like, while the monster is talking in Japanese, subtitles pop up in its victim's like vision so that it can understand
You're going critically silly with this.
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. I was like, I think that could be something like that would be fucking weird and creepy if like this monster, like if you encounter this monster and it starts speaking in Japanese, and then you see like subtitles, but like in your vision, like just ghostly appear. But that might also be like ridiculously silly. Also, regarding the thing that says like it seemed happy and playful, yet also angry and malicious. I kind of like the idea that it's like it's almost like there's two voices or two versions of the same voice speaking in unison, but with different inflections or intent.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like yeah, it's speaking a happy voice, but at the exact same time, it's speaking in an angry voice.
Yeah, it's like if you
voice.
read the line of "Do you want to play?" normally, and then you read it again angrily, and then you play them simultaneously at the same time. Kind of like
this. Do you want to play?
Yeah, like that. I'm sure that sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so was there something else that you want to bring up on that though? With the or did you say your piece about KageKao and how the character wouldn't know?
Yeah, he wouldn't know his name. Okay. So
yeah, I know. Yeah, and there is that, and it's just like, but at the same time, I kind of wish it did say it, like name drop it somewhere. But I understand, like the character would not understand what the kanji are, even if it was like written, even if like like the monster like spray painted on his house like KageKao, like as like a like, or as maybe as even like the police, like that could have been, honestly, that could have even been the like the last thing that the cops find is like they go and check like by the window or something like that, and there's like the creature's left like a calling card or something like that where it just says KageKao on like the wall. But
I don't know.
Regardless, yeah.
The way I'm seeing it is like if the story was about some random monster, I mean it's about a monster, but if you pick some other story that's about a monster, you often don't get its name because it's just a weird monster that's murdering people. Just because
True,
is more civil and speaks a human dialect doesn't change it from it's a monster that you can't communicate with.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's a fair counter to my argument, but I'll move on. Mm-hmm. Earlier today, so this is from the newspaper article. Earlier today, John Parker, age 20, was found dead near the northern woods. The northern woods of where? I find it strange that a newspaper wouldn't identify like the name of the woods or even like a street near the woods. Like, because speaking from experience, that's generally they will like give a specific like not an like a specific address, but like they'll give us like a specific location in the town, not just the northern woods near like the northern woods.
And I hate to be that guy that keeps countering you.
Keep doing it. Just keep going.
This section is not in quotes. This is paraphrased. This isn't word for word. It's the narrator telling us the rough stuff, the rough idea of what the story said in the newspaper.
Fair.
When I first read it, I thought it was going to be the actual newspaper, but that I noticed stuff like that where it's saying bland information but not giving us specifics, and then noticed, oh right, this isn't in quotes anymore. Only the title is.
Okay, fair enough. I still want to know where these woods are.
North.
But yeah,
Like, you know.
yeah, maybe they're just called the Northern Woods, like the Northern Woods National or like a public park.
There you go.
I don't know. All right, I'll move on to the next thing that you can counter.
I will.
Actually, I have this one where I actually steal a game reference from you, I think. So here's the long quote I have. He was about to call down his apologies when what happened next made him freeze. The person who was on the sidewalk looked up at him. He had on a black hoodie and black and white striped scarf. That, of course, was not what made him freeze. The person also had on a peculiar mask, half pitch black and half luminous white. He managed to get back his voice and was going to shout his apologies. Maybe this guy just came back from a strange party or gathering, when he was yet again frozen by what he saw. The man said something that Mark couldn't quite hear, and then jumped onto the wall. He began climbing up the side of the building, similar to the style of a spider or lizard. So first off, I love the stun lock tactics of KageKao.
Yes.
Sorry for stealing your gaming reference, but gamer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I kept thinking of is he's just stun locking. Like he's just supernaturally stun locking his victim.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then secondly, I love the use of the uncanny movement because, like, yeah, the climbing up the building like a spider or a lizard, like, never is not creepy to move around for me.
Mm.
Like, I love it in movies and like in videos and stuff when you just see like a person walking around, like skittering up a wall like a freaking like lizard or an insect.
Yep.
There's just, it's something uncanny and creepy about it. So, and then my next one here.
Before we continue, there's a North Woods Nature Preserve in Ballston Lake, New York.
Okay, so this takes place in New York.
You're welcome.
In Boston Lake, New York. Thank you. All right, cool. But yeah, moving on. The monster's mask changed. The angry mouth and eye disappeared, and on the black side of the mask appeared a happy eye and a strange smile. So I think a cool little detail might be to describe that, like, when the eye and mouth close, like, the seam where they close just vanishes, and then where the eye and mouth open on the other side of the mask, it's like a seam, like as if there wasn't a seam there before, but then suddenly just an eye and a mouth open up. Like, I think that might just be like an extra little bit of detail that would be cool to add.
I don't think they physically open. It's like the paint changing. Like, it's still a painted mask.
Really? Okay, I got the impression that it was supernaturally like the eye hole and the mouth like spot, like where it was carved into the mask, like it actually like animates and closes and shuts, or closes and opens.
Well, it is supernatural because it is still a painted mask that can shift on its own.
Oh, so it's like a Rorschach sort of, like a painting effect, not a
not a
effect.
physical like cut in.
I mean, yeah. See, I got that impression more than maybe just because the way I read like the description of like the angry mouth and eye disappeared. It says disappeared. It doesn't say closed necessarily. Damn it. Fuck. I'm just like really misreading the story apparently.
Not really. It's just the mask isn't described well enough clearly because you saw one way, I saw it another.
Yeah.
I saw it like if you take a blank mask, you could paint half of it black and put the white eyes, and paint the other, put the black on the other side, on the white side, and then it shifts between those two. That's the way I saw it. But you saw it as you take a blank mask and you straight up carve the facial features into it, and then I guess behind it, like if it's a white mask, the white side of it, it's carved out, and there's just blackness behind it. But the blackness isn't paint; it's just whatever is behind the mask.
Yeah, because this thing's it's referred to because like it's referred to as like a monster. I just imagine it's not actually a person behind it; it's like some demon. Like, so its face could just be like constantly fluctuating between like white and black, like tints and stuff on the other side. But
I guess.
yeah, so
Although
yeah.
I'll say this, on the white side, like with on the black side of the mask that has the white features, the bright white part, like, wouldn't that be teeth if that was his actual face underneath that?
Not well. Unless you're thinking he has a face underneath
That's
that.
true.
It might just be like the swirling like white and blackness under like on the opposite sides, or like maybe just like a weird like again like it's just a weird demon like no face.
Yeah, like beneath the
Sort of
mask
thing.
and underneath the gloves, he is either made up of shadow or light, basically, depending on his mood.
Yeah. Which would make sense why his name, at least from the title, is called KageKao, Shadow Face.
Mm-hmm.
But
the shadow and also
if it is,
light face.
And, yeah. Also, I don't hate that if it is supposed to be like that, it's painted and it's just like the paint is like animating.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't hate that either. But it should maybe clarify that the face is a blank mask, no like holes or anything like that, except for this painted on design.
Yeah, and I would also add to the creepiness too, because it'd be like, how is he able to see? It's just a solid mask.
Yeah, it gives him more of a demonic like appearance or nature because he's using blind sight, probably like at 120 feet to go back into D&D and RPG shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So I did also like I like throughout the story I did find myself like giving some suggestions. I did find myself like putting down some suggestions on how to make this thing like creepier, how to like add in a few extra details and such. Which I think we've also been doing, like even during like the Grammar Inquisition, like regarding the melee attack. Like there's a better way to like make that more like cinematic or more narratively interesting.
Yeah.
So. But my next thing here, so the monster cocked its head to one side and said in Japanese, "Do you want to play?" Mark screamed and ran towards the little door leading to the inside of the building. As I'm reading the story, I was like, that right there, smartest reaction I've read in weeks.
Yes.
If a little delayed, because like he was stun locked at the edge of the rooftop.
Yeah, that wasn't his fault though. He was constantly casting stun. Yeah, he
exactly.
has like 3 casts of stun that he can do that have like a 5-second cooldown on them. So he has to like make sure to send them out one at a time to keep them stun locked. Just enough.
Or he's got like he's got a fear aura that is like by sight rather than like you have to be in the area. So like the character's just he was just constantly failing his will saves and getting the stun option.
Yes.
But then we get this, like a few lines or even like a paragraph later, we get this. He gathered up his courage and decided to open the door. And that smart move earlier was sabotaged. Because he's in the safety of the roof access, and then decides to open the door again to see if he's there.
Yeah,
and then
you gotta think
and then
it. He's gonna have to leave his apartment eventually, anyways.
Well, he wasn't even in the apartment at that point. He was just in the stair access.
Oh, yeah.
But and then we get this. Well, it was late. Maybe he fell asleep on the roof and had a nightmare. He decided to check one more time. My head was in my hands as I read this. Okay, back up just a bit. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Mark?
He's not the part.
Dummy story, Mark.
Yeah.
Sorry. Also, wow, wait, it's Mark on a rooftop.
Yeah,
is
I had
just Tommy Wiseau?
I had a note about that. I was ready to unleash that. I was literally just going to say, Mark sighed at the quote of Mark sighed and looked up at the sky. He was standing on the roof of his apartment building 4 stories up. Sometimes Mark liked to stay up there and reflect. It was quiet and peaceful until his friend Tommy showed up and said, "Oh, hi, Mark."
Until his friend KageKao Wiseau came up.
Yeah, in Japanese said, "Oh, hi, Mark."
Oh, hi, Mark. How's your sex life? Man, I don't get women anymore. Beatrice has been like me and Beatrice had a fight. Oh my god, is KageKao just the room?
It is. It actually is.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
God damn. All right, moving on. So I got the part about the two voices thing. Here's the next one. Actually, this is about like the fight with Beatrice. He told himself again and again that he had imagined it. He was just getting paranoid because his dream felt so real. Beatrice could have done this too. There was no monster. And then my addition was, except maybe Beatrice, because she's a vindictive bitch after that fight. Because he was like blaming her for all the pranks that KageKao was doing.
She's the true monster.
Yes.
KageKao could just be her dressed up.
Hence why it has the voice of her. It's actually like she faked her own death.
Yep.
to make Mark kill himself.
My God.
Or to frame Mark for murder. Because I have another thing that's actually coming up right now, I think. Yes, I think it's in this one or the next it's in the next one after that. Okay, so sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll move on to the next thing I have on my list. It was sitting on the couch drinking a glass of wine, watching the television that had been left on. The monster paused and looked up at Mark, smiling. It picked up the open bottle of wine in one hand and shook it a little towards him. Japanese for wine? Mark paused, staring at the monster. He quickly snapped out of it and ran back to the kitchen as quickly as he could. It was real. He really expected the monster to get up and come after him, to kill him and eat him. But because that's what monsters do. But the monster remained there. He could hear it laughing at him. Mark was afraid. And at this point, like I read this, I was like, why are you afraid, Mark? I guess, yeah, this masked monster guy has broken into your home and is like dropping down some pranks, but the pranks thus far have been pretty harmless. At this point, either the monster is just playing with his food and lulling Mark into a false sense of security with his silly pranks and such, or this is going to turn out to be a buddy horror.
Yeah, it absolutely could have.
Yeah. New title for the story, How KageKao Became My Roommate. also the name of my anime series pitch.
Yeah, there you go. You got anime in there somehow.
Yeah. And honestly, that does sound like the name of an anime based on a slew of recent animes that I have that are basically like Reddit no sleep story like titles.
Yeah. Because I do wonder like how this would have went. Because he had two options: either do the things that it's saying to do, or run away. And he ran away all the time. I wonder if they just would have been bros, you know?
Yeah, he just sat. What if he just like went? He ran over to the kitchen, grabbed himself a glass of a wine glass, and came back and just started lounging on the chair on the couch with KageKao and just chilled and watched movies. Yep. Funny story, Mark. And then my next one here. This is the one about like being framed for murder and stuff, but there's also something else to it. He walked into the dining room, calling out her name. He paused when he saw the bottle of champagne on the table. It was the bottle that he had in his cabinet. It was open. He picked it up and examined it. There was a note taped to the side of it. The note read, "Beatrice, I'm so sorry about our fight. I really want to make it up to you because I love you with all my heart and soul. Mark." Is this a buddy horror? Like KageKao's just being a bro to Mark, and like Mark was too afraid to like confront like Beatrice earlier. So KageKao like slipped into her house with the champagne bottle and like set this wine this champagne bottle up with the message from Mark to try and like, you know, make amends and stuff between Beatrice and Mark. And then, you know, because this is a buddy horror, he poisoned the champagne, or the champagne was already poisoned, and she died.
Maybe he didn't intentionally poison it. He was actually trying to be a bro. It's just something in the champagne she is deathly allergic to.
Oh,
it wasn't
no!
The champagne for her.
It was all a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Also, because based on what I read there, now that Mark has put his fingerprints on the bottle, authorities will likely pin her death on him.
Oh yeah.
After they find her and him.
And the note on the poisoned bottle.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, it's like either like again, it's KageKao playing with his food, or it's all been a bad misunderstanding, and that's what makes this a buddy horror. And then the last thing I have, which killed me, unfortunately, all spooky. There wasn't a lot of spookiness in the story until it was at the beginning of the story for me. There was like some kind of spooky elements, but the rest of it was kind of like blah in terms of like spooks or like any kind of creepy atmosphere. This killed it. This was the nail in the coffin for me. It laughed hard, putting its hands up to its face to try and stop. You think this is funny? You killed her. I'll kill you. Mark stood up and grabbed the bottle. In Japanese, you mad, brah?
Yeah. It says you mad.
I couldn't. I added you, bro, at the end of it because as soon as I read you mad, I just like, wow. I started laughing because it was like, this guy's hilarious. I love this character. Not very scary, but like maybe that's part of the point of it. Is like he's being jovial and stuff to lure in his victims, but it's coming off as like he's a troll. He's a freaking like internet troll. You mad, bruh?
He's like a Loki kind of situation. He's a trickster. Yeah,
100%. He's like, there's definitely, and like this. I think what bottom line for me, like by the end of the story, I realized this story is very campy and almost cheesy in one of those like ways that like some like 80s and 90s horror movies tend to be like he kind of KageKao's like mannerism and like the way he like was like torturing his victims stuff kind of reminded me of Leprechaun, like the series of movies with the villain being the Leprechaun. Because like those are supposed to be scary movies, and like he usually ends up killing the people at the end in like a gruesome way, but he's like pranking them like with like ridiculous gags, like he's like it's like that. It's almost like a horror comedy.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, and like unintentional horror comedy, like he's doing these horrific killings, but he's like has a gag that he presents it as first. And they're just kind of silly, like horror.
Isn't that also the Joker?
The Joker also does it, but like with Leprechaun, it's more of a horror element. Whereas the Joker's, I guess the Joker is also a horror thing. But like
if the Joker was a real thing, and not a comic book, he is doing jokey stuff while doing crime.
Yeah, I mean there is a reason why he's called the Clown Prince of Crime. I almost said the Clown Prince of Prime. Yes. Because words are hard.
And ninjas play free.
Now, I was going to say, now I can't not think of like what would the Joker look like as a Warframe.
Well, you know what Harley Quinn would look like Mirage.
That's true. Yeah, Mirage, 100%. Anyway, that's my actual thoughts for the story. So Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right, let's see here. What do you do? Let's go back to this newspaper.
That was summarized. We did establish.
Yeah. But the fact that the very first part of the newspaper, which is today's newspaper, is earlier today. Most papers are yesterday's news.
Yep.
So the whole newspaper section reads more like a news report than a newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, technically it should have said yesterday. Like the events of the murder and stuff should have happened yesterday, not today. Because like, even if, well, we don't really know when, how long what time of night he was up there. But like, the presses and like papers usually get shipped out in the middle of the night so that they can arrive at your door in the early morning. So, and at that point, yeah, it's yesterday's news that you're getting the next day. So it really kind of should have been like the day before's newspaper.
Well, maybe it was. It's just the wording of it is weird. Saying like
Yeah.
the newspaper is saying that the newspaper is reporting on yesterday's events. So yesterday, which at the time was today, John Parker, age 20, was found dead. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, wording.
But
Yeah,
it is written weird.
Yeah. To me, that would have been better if it was, say, like a news report, like he was watching TV, and then that would make more sense because they could just turn off the TV when it reaches the part where it's explaining the symbol on the forehead.
That's true, and he does
Yeah.
watch TV later anyways, uselessly. So if this was put there, then there's a point.
Yeah. Then suddenly we get that information. It's a little bit further down the line, I guess. But I mean, either way, it's getting into the story.
Yeah,
Mhm.
basically, like he wouldn't be showing up on the rooftop though, and hitting him with the door and doing all that stuff, and we wouldn't get the scene of him crawling up the wall.
Oh no, that's not what I meant. I meant like the news report of like the killing and so that could be on the like it didn't have to be on the rooftop. I mean, the rooftop scene can still all happen because he's just out there chilling and hanging out and like enjoying the night air. I just mean like the newspaper, like I think Mikey was saying, like the newspaper could just be at the news, like the on the TV.
So like he's up on the roof, he accidentally knocks the cardboard box down. It shows up. It knocks him in the head with the door, knocks him out. He wakes up, does all that stuff, watches TV, and then the TV is where he reads about it.
Yeah, so we actually get what is he watching on the TV? Because as far in the story, we're like, it's just not really. It doesn't say anything like what he's watching. He's just watching TV. There's no.
Yeah.
It's just the TV's playing in the background, but we never get like any details. I mean, we don't need any details. However, that would be a good spot to add those details of the news report.
And I think that was the point when he was trying to reassure himself that it wasn't real. He wasn't sure it was real yet during that TV watching. So even at that point, he would still potentially click off from that. He wouldn't be like, hey, maybe this is the thing that's harassing me.
Yeah. Also, it would make sense now why KageKao is sitting there on the couch with a bottle of wine, laughing and watching the TV because he's watching his last victim. Like he's watching them find his last victim.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
So it's actually like, guys, I think we cleaned up part of the story. We gave it a reason to have a TV playing in the background and why he said they're watching it. Good job, Mikey.
You're welcome. All right. Then just a blanket note that the entity has framed Mark for murder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
good thing Mark's already dead.
Yeah, good thing that the entity killed him anyway, because I mean, he was going to be framed for murder, right?
Yep.
That would also frame him for any previous murders that KageKao did too.
Oh my god, you're right. So KageKao just like
cleaned up all of his own loose ends.
Oh my god. Also, yeah, like because authorities got him on like they've got DNA, they've got fingerprints, they've got a note. They've got that she like if they dig deeper into her house, he's taken her gun. The gun is at his house. Is at his apartment. In his cold dead oh, not his cold dead hands because I think he threw the Did he throw the gun or did he just try to use it? He died in her
apartment.
Did he?
Yeah, because he went there to see what's to like make things up with her, and she was dead there. And then he was there. He being KageKao, so he pulled out his gun, and then he shot 4 times and missed all 4 times, and had 2 popsicle sticks because he missed twice.
Oh, I thought he went back to his apartment after like chasing KageKao, like out of her apartment.
No,
that's how I read it. Like, hang on,
he showed up, she was dead, and he's like, "You son of a bitch!" Pulls out the gun, they had the fight, and he died.
I think that's actually like the actual like the final fight happens at Mark's house, not at Beatrice's. Yeah, I'm quickly like digging it up.
Yeah, because it's at part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Hang on. Is it?
But he sees the dead body in part 2.
Give me a second. Mark stood up and grabbed the bottle. The bottle. You mad? Haha. Mark threw the bottle but the monster jumped out of the window before it reached it. He was going to kill it.
Yeah.
He would make it pay. Mark walked over and grabbed Beatrice's gun from the dresser.
Right.
And Mark ran out the door. There's no sign of the monster anywhere. He knew it was going back to his apartment. Okay.
Yep, you're right.
Okay, cool.
I forgot about that part.
It's fine.
Right, because he got the gun there.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, yeah, so like, they're going to, like, if that gun's registered, which, I mean, it's America, it's probably registered. They're going to be able to, like, get the shells and like get the guns like registration and find out that it was Beatrice's. So yeah, Mark was fucked even if he didn't die.
I don't know if it would cover up KageKao's murders, actually, because Mark himself has the symbol on his forehead.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
If
I mean, it would cover up one of
his
them.
forehead, and then he was just dead. Then it would kind of look like he was the forehead stamper all along.
Yeah. Also, a good name for this monster,
Yeah.
the forehead stamper. Also, yeah. So I think at the very least, Beatrice's murder has been covered up.
Yeah, it was Mark.
Because authorities are going to think that was Mark.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it was always Mark because, like, but it was all an accident because clearly she was allergic to the champagne.
Yeah.
This is all like a buddy horror gone wrong or right.
The forehead stamper got me.
You're just silently
just
laughing over there.
Yeah. So he's got one of those stamp books and an actual stamper.
Oh, yeah, it's bladed.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just has the kanji for boring on it. It's just like, oh god, that's actually kind of really, like, I kind of like that as like a murder, as like a signature for a murderer.
Yeah.
Just like murder, boring stamp.
It's like a stamp knife. Like the blade,
Yeah, it's like
a good like 2 or 3 inches, like enough to go into the brain.
Yeah, like you hear, like, because like there are murderers that have like nicknames like that, like unknown, like assailant murderers. Like, I mean, I'm not talking like Jack the Ripper, but like the Boston Strangler. So it's like the what was the name of the town that that you found Northwood in?
Oh shit!
Damn it!
Yes, it was super important.
Super important.
There's apparently also a Northwood Park in North York, Ontario.
Ah, yeah, you're right, because Northwood Park near Brampton. I just, like, it comes up on Google. So,
Man, loading up my old search. Ballston Lake, New York.
So the Boston Lake Stamper.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the Boston Strangler.
Kind of sounds the same though.
It does sound very similar. So that's going to be the sequel. Boston Strangler versus the Boston Lake Stamper.
Or it's in New York, so it would probably just be the New York Stamper.
Yeah. Well, New York. Oh, it's a park in New York City, not New York State. So yeah. So it's the New York, the New York Stamper. Yeah.
Hmm.
New York Stamper versus Boston Strangler. 2 murderers, 2 towns, same rivalry.
Who can kill their entire town quicker?
Oh my god, that's gonna be
Sundays on ABC.
That's gonna be quite the kill count because it'd be like Boston, the size of Boston and New York.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So the next episode here, I have a quote. Taking out a bottle of beer, he poured some into a glass and then nearly dropped the bottle when he saw that it wasn't beer, it was just plain water. To which my comment is, oh, so they all turned into Coors Light.
Oh, yeah.
I was also thinking, they've just so KageKao has just been Blue Ocean dubbed. That's a Dragon Ball Z reference. because the Blue Ocean dub is the Canadian dubbing of Dragon Ball Z in the 90s that we all watched, where Master Roshi's bottle of beer was colored blue to make it not beer but water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because Blue Ocean dub is also the guys who were like, no, they didn't go to hell. They went to the home for infinite losers, or they didn't die. They went to the other dimension.
Mm-hmm.
They went to Otherworld.
Yeah. That's in my actual thoughts.
Nice. All right, gamer.
Okay. So the title is cool. The art's cool. The before I started reading the story, I obviously looked at the art because it's at the top, and I was curious if the padded cell that's in the background was going to be spoilers. It wasn't, but to me, it's clearly a padded cell in the background.
It does kind of look like a padded. I'm trying to think of like what else would that be? Like now that you're pointing it out, I can't not see that as a padded cell.
I know, right? Maybe it's just like a really loose, open fence that he's walking past. I don't know, or maybe they're it might be just big stonework of a wall.
Oh yeah,
Like he's walking by a building that's just made of big square stones that are very round and pillowy and soft, and also in a cell. I don't know.
Yeah,
because it still looks like a padded cell to me.
Yeah,
it is an interesting. Yeah, I want like.
it's definitely a padded cell.
Yeah, I don't know what that like. Maybe because I noticed like some because I've pulled up the image again. We didn't even talk about the image of this, so I'm glad that you brought it up. But there's a second image that accompanies this one. Like when you click on that image, like and get it previewed, and it's when you click on the first one and like it enlarges, it makes it bigger. There's like one next to it that's of KageKao again. Though this one has hair, shows that he has hair and stuff. And he's just like sitting down with a bottle of wine, and he says like wine, and it's all a gray background, but it's just a clean gray background, not a there's no texture or anything behind it.
I do not see that. The next picture on that lineup is a picture of Mario.
Okay, maybe it's just depending on my browser then.
I don't know.
Weird. But regardless, the image that actually is in the story, which is the one we're talking about with the padded cell, that is kind of odd. Like maybe it's supposed to be a fencing and it's like foggy out, but like that's stretching, I think. That's stretching my fist, I think.
Yeah. Either way, the art's cool regardless.
Yeah, no, the art does give us a good based on the description we get in the story, it's accurate.
That's another I know it's the art and it's not necessarily 100% accurate to what it looks like in real life, but the art is why I thought it was just a flat painted mask, because it is just flat painted shapes on the mask. But again,
gotcha. That
could just be because they didn't go into fine detail with the art.
Yeah, like I actually even for once I read the story on creepypasta.wiki. I didn't just pull up I had the Google Doc for getting my quotes and stuff.
Yeah,
but I actually decided to read it on the wiki this time, and I completely ignored the image regardless.
Wow.
So I just read it at without the image in my head, except for I knew for when I Googled up KageKao to find the creepypasta again. Google Image has a shit ton of fan art for KageKao. So, so I just again I read the story without the image in mind, aside from what I knew the creature to look like, kind of. So,
wow, you're right. There's a shitload of images on him.
Yeah, I think it's because the original artist, again they were on DeviantArt, and this character is pretty popular from what I understand. Also, somebody did a video, so the creepypastafiles.wiki has a photo of what he would look like, and it is so cool.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now. Although, all of this art is making me think that I saw the mask wrong.
No, you saw. I think you saw it right, because I'm looking at some of it. Are you sure?
Yep, I'm sure. All of these masks are wrong. That one's right. Most of them are. That one's also right. Most of them are not the way that I saw them, because the way that I saw it, for example, that live action one, live action, whatever, the real life one.
Yeah.
That one, you see both sides of the face. That's
You're
not
right.
how I saw it. It's supposed to switch, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. You're only supposed to see one side. We're not supposed to see the other. It's either
all of these,
black with the
90% of these have both of them. It's just one side. The black side has really smooth, nice lines, and the white side has jagged lines.
That's kind of like, I get it, like that why people would make that mistake and stuff. But I mean, it's sort of superfluous. I mean, it's not superfluous. Like, it is. That's a major flaw. Like in the interpretation. I mean, it's fine, but it isn't accurate to what it's said in the story.
Yeah, I prefer the switching one.
Yeah, same. I'm totally
do it correct. Like, there are a number of
Yes.
them that are correct in here, but
yeah, there are a few that have like one side is the face while the other one is blank, and vice versa.
and like
But
all of these,
it's not all.
of these on the quote unquote like mean side, it's still a smiley face. It's just jagged. I thought it's supposed to be a frown.
Hey, I think it was like hang on, because I remember it being the way it was written. It was hang on, I'll pull it up, see if I can find it. This is super important.
It is.
Yeah, here it is. Instead, he saw the. Oh no, that's.
He had a mask with a face on it, but only half a face. On the white, only half a face. On the white side of the mask, there is the shape of an angry-looking eye and a mouth curved into a frown. So the white side of the face has an angry eye and a frown. None of these have that.
None of these are right. No!
None of the fan art is right.
So it is supposed to be like a variant, like sort of a take on like the comedy tragedy mask.
I found one that's right. Actually, it's wrong.
Oh, nah. Damn it!
Because the white side is sad.
Yeah.
This one is right, but the white side's happy and the dark side is sad. I'll link it.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I first off, like, yeah, we're criticizing like the masks are all different. It's sort of like sad, but at the same time, I don't want to like pass too much harsh judgment on this, because all of this art is pretty fucking cool.
Oh, it is awesome art.
Yeah, I just want to like
really like the whole flipping of the mask and one side always being in a frown and one side always being in a smile. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the one that you have, again, it's wrong because like it's both sides have the face, but yeah.
Well, both sides have the face, and the dark side is the frown. Meanwhile, the dark side is supposed to be the happy side.
Yeah. Oh God. So I guess I'm gonna have to draw a proper as written version of this.
You're gonna have to,
and then pass it to you, gamer, so to make sure I don't have any issues. There's no problems. But yeah, no. Again, like I do want to preface. I do like all the art that I'm seeing looks really fucking rad and cool.
Yes,
it's just not accurate to the image, or not accurate to the description in the story itself.
Some of them are,
some of them are, but like it's just sort of it's
unfortunate.
But anyway,
like the aesthetic so much.
Yeah. Wow, that was a journey.
That was important.
That was, honestly.
Super important. Here, I'll link one that is, I think, wait, no, this one's wrong too. Oh, that's right. Okay, there. That one is correct. Because the dark side is smiling. Okay, moving on. So I'm not just linking stuff to you guys that the people on the recording cannot see.
Yeah.
Google KageKao.
Yeah.
And you will see images.
Google KageKao and see if you can find one that is accurate to the writing.
You only see half the face. Moving on.
Yes.
Wait, so what is it my turn? Yeah, because we're talking about the art. Right. That all stemmed from the art. Okay. My first action.
Yeah.
Then onto my notes. I like the happy, sad flip of the mask. Makes the mask dynamic. That's my first note that I put down. Moving on, because we already talked about that. I like having the monster have dialogue in another language. It makes it very clear who's speaking, and a lot creepier than just it happening to. Than a lot and also a lot creepier than it just happening to know English, you know?
Yeah, like this is clearly like from the dialogue. Also, we get a little bit more about its nature. Like it's a Japanese demon of some kind, or some Japanese monster that is in an English speaking country or place.
Yes. And that's cool.
Mhm.
Because it has and it opens the opportunities to like buddy horror situation, because it is a thing that speaks,
Yeah, the guy.
but he doesn't really understand it. And as readers, we know it's not saying anything malicious, really, like ever. Even when he's about to murder him, he just says you're boring.
Yeah, and also it's like maybe that's part of the buddy horror, is that they just they have to break down the language barrier.
Yeah. But moving on.
Mhm.
He was just getting, this was in regards to like the pranks he was starting to see. He was just getting paranoid because his dream felt so real. Beatrice could have done this too. There was no monster. Oh, this was in regards to, I should have put more stuff to remind me. This was in regards to the beer being water. And him saying, Beatrice could have done this too. There was no monster. So I don't drink much. But wouldn't it be hard to professionally recap a beer bottle to the point that you wouldn't notice it was tampered with?
Yes, it would be.
Yeah.
Depending on, well, it depends on the brand of beer, because some beers use a screw-on lid, but most of the time you have to pop it. So yes, it would be, depending on the beer. Most beers, most beer bottles tend to have a thing where you need the actual beer open, like a can or a bottle opener.
Even the twist off ones, when you twist it off, it's still fucks with it, so it won't twist back on, really. Or does it?
Yeah. No, I mean it would be looser than it was originally, but yeah, it would be harder to apply. Now, he is a demon.
I know that. I'm saying in regards to him thinking that Beatrice did this.
Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah.
If it was a normal cap on it, she probably wouldn't have done that, because she can't do that.
Yeah.
But if it was maybe you picked it up and the cap was loose and you looked inside and it's water, then okay. But that part wasn't mentioned, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Then my next note is just kind of a blanket statement of how Mark sure likes to talk to himself a lot out loud. Maybe it's meant to be his thoughts, but it's in quotes, so I think he's just openly talking to himself.
Do you not talk to yourself when you're alone and to get your thoughts out and stuff?
No, that's what my head is for.
Okay, because that's something I do.
Fair.
It is something that people do, I think. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was just pointing it out. That's all.
Okay, no, fair.
That to the passerby, he's running around his apartment talking to himself. That's all.
Gotcha.
He's paranoid and everything with all the pranks and such, but yeah, it's not super weird, but it's just something I wanted to point out. Moving on. Then he realized and opened up the cabinet to grab the bottle of champagne, but when he opened it up, the bottle was gone. He thought to himself that his sincere apology would be enough, and he went out the door to see her. This was after the first bottle was taken, and then he went back to get the other one, and it was gone too. I really wanted him to go, Beatrice could have snuck in here in the past 5 minutes and taken that too. She was pretty angry. Because he keeps saying that Beatrice could have done this because she was angry.
Yeah, denial is not just a river in Egypt.
Yep. Indeed. And then he goes off, and then part 2 starts. So, the thing happened with part 2, where I misread a thing, and it fucked it up.
No.
But when you started doing your rundown, I realized my fuck up and was furiously retyping notes while you were doing your grammar stuff. So I hope I didn't read any grammar stuff that you already did. You didn't correct me and say that you've already done it, so I don't think I did.
No, I think I don't recall. I'm sure I'll go back in the editing and remove anything if it was.
Yeah, I feel like you guys would have said, "Oh, we did that already," so it's fine.
Yeah.
Either way, I misread. I don't know if I should bother mentioning it. I might as well. Part 1 ends with him showing up, and he wants to knock, but then he does, and he just walks away. and then there's a laughing sound, and then the sound of the window opening. I read that as he heard the laughing sound and he heard the window opening and he just walked away anyways.
Oh,
Because it does say he didn't hear. Like, what's the actual wording of it? Where is it? Where's part deux? Part deux. Not noticing that laugh that happened right beside him, followed by the sound of an opening window. I read that as noticing that laugh. I didn't read the not.
No.
And because of that, as soon as part 2 started, I'm like, what the hell is going on? Wouldn't he... Like, I thought he cares about this person. He's just leaving her to die. He just leaves and goes to the bar for his supposed love of his life while she's being harassed or killed by this demon. But no, I just misread it, so that's my B.
Okay.
Either way, he gets in the apartment, sees the wine there, reads it, and then... Wait, does he... Oh, this is after reading it, yeah. And then he hears, "That's so sweet of him." And then Mark paused and looked up. There was the monster sitting on the windowsill and imitating her voice. "I'm so sorry we even fought in the first place." Mark stared at it, anger boiling inside. So to that, I really like the Predator vibes that's giving. Where like this creature that's murdering just for fun, it seems. You cannot communicate with it, and it can imitate our own voices. It's straight up Predator.
Yeah.
Which is cute. Then the next one is in regards to the pistol. He knew where she kept a pistol for self-defense. He pulled it out and opened the clip, seeing that there were only 4 bullets left. And to me, I'm like, cringe. It's not a clip. It's a magazine.
Okay, that
doesn't know any better. Like, a lot of people don't know any better. But I'm like, no, it's not. You're wrong, and I hate you.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong, and I hate you.
Damn it, Mark. God damn it. But yeah, moving on. This is in regards to him chasing the creature. Mark ran as fast as he could, ignoring the crosswalk signs and other people and cars. I wish that happened. But no.
Yeah.
It almost seemed like it was setting him up for being hit by a car.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't put it past KageKao of like setting that up to be the way that he kills Mark this time, just by like happenstance.
Yeah.
And honestly, that also would have been I would be fine with it ending there, with him just being hit by a car and killed.
Yeah. Absolutely. And just like as the paramedics and authorities show up to try and like figure out what, or like help the situation and stuff, all that is heard on the wind is
Mm-hmm.
the laughter from the Japanese style laughter.
And that's about it for my notes until final thoughts.
Okay. So yeah, on to final thoughts. For me, I liked the playfulness of the monster KageKao. Though at times it was a bit silly more than scary. Like I said earlier, I think the beginning of the story was like where like most of the spookiness was, and then it just sort of started getting like less scary as it went on, and more just sort of like like not even an action pasta, but like just a prankster pasta. This is like Impractical Jokers levels of bullshit. But he's sort of like, and like I said also earlier, like he's like a deadly trickster villain from like a cheesy horror movie from the 80s or 90s, such as the Leprechaun movies, where he like pulls in the gag. That's like that right before, like he incorporates a gag as part of his kills, and like sometimes it's like spooky or like unnerving how like he implements the gag, but then most of the time it's sort of almost done unintentionally for laughs, or maybe intentionally for laughs, depending on the scene in those movies. And that's kind of what I got from this. It kind of, by the end of the story, I kind of read this, like the vibe of this story felt more like a campy horror story than a super serious sort of creepy story. That being said, there are some things I feel could have been added to the story to like improve it, like little details and stuff like that. And we've certainly come up with a couple in our talking here. Like again, where the newspaper was found like should be moved over to like a news report on the TV, so the TV scene has a point.
Yeah.
The story has a bunch of grammatical fixes that need to be done, and it's not without its flaws, but overall, I did like it. It just wasn't very scary, so I'm going to give it a mostly positive partial recommendation. So, yeah, that's my recommendation is partial recommend. So, Mikey, the E stands for evil.
Okay. Well, I liked the trickster aspect of it, where this entity sort of plays with Mark. But Mark just seems so stupid.
Or just situationally unaware.
And then the whole ending part where the article from before sort of matches the description of the body at the ending. And then we finally get the reveal of the forehead, and it doesn't really add anything. That part I didn't really care for. So to sum up, there's parts I liked, parts I didn't like. So I can only really give this a partial recommendation.
Okay. And Gamer.
For me, I like the monster. I like its look and its whole shtick. I wasn't taken out of the spookiness as you were, Cultist. I liked it, honestly. I did feel the creep through it all. Because of something that you said earlier, honestly. He's playing with his kill. He's a powerful entity that just enjoys messing with people before swiftly killing them. And that comes across in everything he's doing. Hence why Mark is always noping out. This should have been a November episode, actually, because he's constantly noping. But what I don't like is Mark's attention span, for example. Like, he doesn't, like, he wants to make things better with his girlfriend and then immediately forgets to think about how to make things better with his girlfriend, for example.
Yeah.
The reveal at the end was good, I guess, but it could have been tied in a bit better. I agree with Mikey there. Because it doesn't really add to anything. Like, for example, if he kept reading that paper and he read that the symbol was Japanese for boring, it wouldn't have added anything or removed anything if he knew that information earlier. Like, nothing really would have changed from knowing the quote-unquote twist, spoiler, whatever, reveal. But overall, I just, as I said, I just wish there was a better tie-in for the symbol. And I wish people drew the mask correctly, but but I enjoyed it, honestly, and I'll recommend it. Just there's only a couple of things that bother me with it, just not enough to sway my opinion that it's a good story.
Fair. So, I guess at the end of the day, it's 2 partial recommendations and 1 full recommendation. Then
It's not like we're not talking who was phone recommendation here, but
no, of course not,
because nothing can add up to that. But yeah, I recommend it, but again, it also needs the grammar stuff and all the corrections that we thought of. I enjoy better, like the TV situation and stuff like that. There are ways to make it better. It's not perfect, but I'll give it a very high partial or a low actual recommendation, whatever.
Yeah, honestly,
that's
weird. Where I was at. Yeah, our scale is non-Euclidean.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's where I was at. Where like I was gonna give this a full recommendation, but by the time we got to the end, it was like, you know what? This is probably more of like I can't ignore all the things that we added, all the grammar we corrected, and all the things that we suggested that would improve it. So it's like I'll give it a high partial recommendation. So I think that's where we're both at then.
Yeah. If most of the fan art had the mask done correctly, I would be recommending it 100%.
Hey, you can't blame the story for the fandom.
I know.
But yeah, okay. So 3 relatively high partial recommendations, aside from maybe Mikey's.
God, now I'm wondering. on
What?
KageKao's actual DeviantArt, is he actually drawing them that way? Because then
I really
wrong,
hope that
because he's
that...
the artist. He can
Oh, no.
he can draw them however
Oh,
the fuck
no.
he wants.
But he wrote it. The story was written. Do we want to keep that on air? Do we want to have that on air for you to find out?
Problem is when I search for KageKao, it just shows all the fan art.
Hang on, I'll find the artist. Oh my
Oh,
lord.
is this the Jinbeizamezama one that I can't
Yeah,
pronounce?
Jinbeizamezama.
Yep, I think I found it.
Okay.
There's a couple here where like the mask is lifted up a little bit, and he has like a drow-like kind of skin complexion behind him with like rows of teeth.
So good news. It looks as though the face is yes.
I can see a version 1, 2, 3. Do you see that?
No.
Basically,
I went into his gallery and searched KageKao, so I'm looking at all his 173 results. Jesus, this guy was prolific.
yeah. What I'm seeing is like his first concepts for version 1, 2, 3, where like his hoodie was 50-50 split as well, and then but on that one, the mask is showing both the faces at the same time all the time, and then and he's also American in the first one, and then the second one, it's the split mask, the one that I think is from the actual the image that we saw there, and then no, even the version 3 one, it's a frown, and it's only showing half. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Oh, just like I'm going through his art. It looks like they. Wait, is he an SCP now? What?
My God.
Oh my God! I think SCP. No, hang on. It's KageKao loves the wine, right?
Yeah.
So the creator made a piece of art where KageKao is enjoying a glass of SCP-2730. SCP-2730 is a simple glass cup, like the kind used to hold fancy assortment of wine. However, if a human were to look directly at it, the wine glass would immediately fill up to the test subject's deepest cravings for a flavor and even age of a selected wine. So apparently it's the ideal like combination between KageKao and this SCP, because it's a glass of wine that he like perfectly desires.
Nice. Also, I am seeing art that he is doing that has the white side of the face with the jagged mouth doing a smile. So I think the way it is basically when the white side of the face is active, it can smile or frown, whatever. Maybe it animates. It's just that is the malicious side. And then the black side of the face, which has smooth lines on all the facial features, is like the happy side.
Yeah, because I think because a lot based on like the art that I'm seeing, like you're absolutely right. Like it's just jagged on the one side versus clean on the other.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a frown.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So my whole shtick my whole bit of hammering home the fact that the mask is wrong is wrong. It's
fine. Yeah. Like art is supposed to be interpretive and subjective. Everyone has their own opinion on a piece of art and stuff, so it's totally fine. Yeah.
It is what it is, and I guess whatever works.
Yeah. But I think that's going to do it for our episode tonight. So if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can get a hold of us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without the W because his name is very long. And I'm at Review Cultist. You can also send us emails at aldentebrigamortis at gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS at gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, cryptids. You creep it, we'll peep it. Yeah. And if you'd like to help support our show financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content. To our patrons that are helping support our show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to our listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you immensely. Because without your listenership, it would be like screaming into the void. And without your stories and art and authorship, like posting these things online and sharing them with the internet, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we'd have nothing to talk about. So, thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the East Hand Evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.
I'm both happy and sad that I'm wrong about the mask thing.
Aww.
It's fine.